The buzzing of incoming comms was a mosquito in Kotak's internal cochlear implants, scratching at his senses as he punched towards the hard stone. The Thonian grunted. He opened the voice call with a thought. His concussion gauntlet slammed into the rock and shattered it into a brief storm of dust and jagged shrapnel. Yeah?
Hey, Bullbreaker. Got one for you in the East Quadrant. Looks like a Modia.
Raffle one, eh? Anyone hurt?
Nah. Imi took a few scratches, but she got out of there before any real harm was done.
Got her.
But it halted operations. What are you up to?
Breaking rocks. The voice on the other end of the line chuckled.
I'll see you soon, Bullbreaker.
Yeah. Kotak swung his other fist at the wall. His concussion gauntlet multiplied the mass behind his hand, further supplemented by nanofiber muscle grafts and electromagnetic strength amplifiers. The rock exploded into tiny pieces and showered Kotak in dust. Grunting again, Kotak made his way over to the East Quadrant. His gait was neither hurried nor unhurried, the movement of his hyperdense bones somewhat mechanical and stiff, but powerful and implacable. Each footstep sent small tremors through asteroid rock. His void armor, threaded with a magnaferrite weave and reinforced by adamantium alloys, only came up to his waist. Where it ended, skin as black as the void between stars held a glistening thin sheen of sweat, his torso bumpy from subdermal augmentations, artificial organs, and biomechanical interface shunts. Additional bone growth formed the beginnings of a crest across his forehead, exaggerated by bionic plating that softly thrummed with internal augments behind. Kotak reached the East Quadrant. He mumbled a greeting to Vork, waiting for his fellow Thonian to complete the swing of his heavy plasma axe before walking past. The axe head brimmed an orange shimmer through the air. When it met rock, it sliced through the stone like a gene stealer's claws through flesh. Kotak continued on, following the downwards path of scaffolding built against the cliff face of a deep, natural gorge. He made way for a lumbering L-cog heading the opposite direction, leaning out into the abyss as the drone whirred automated thanks. The air was thick with the dust of broken rock and the smouldering odour of burning plasma. Kotak breathed it in with relish. He trusted in his supplementary bronchus meshes to filter the worst of the dust from his lungs. He met Imi at the bottom of the gorge. She turned towards him by way of greeting, but Kotak knew it was little more than an imitation of biological socialization. After all, Imi did not strictly speaking see Kotak in a conventional sense, and she certainly didn't rely on any perceptual apparatus fixed behind her glimmering helm. "Hi, Imi. Heard you caught a live one." Imi inclined her head in acknowledgement. Lacking many joints in her neck, her gesture was somewhere between a head bob and a short bow.
Yeah. Caught a backhand to my center mass, which sent me flying. Nearwell broke through the cave wall.
Put some distance between you and her, at least. Any damage?
No. The back of my unit requires maintenance, but nothing major. You are here to get rid of it?
Yeah. Thought we'd have a bit of a wrestle.
She's a big one.
Got her. Should liven up the day. Imi chuckled. Or at the very least, produced a convincing mimicry of a chuckle.
The ancestors are watching, Bullbreaker.
That they are. Imi stepped back, revealing a narrow aperture leading deeper into the earth. Bored-out rock was held aloft by humming gravitic struts, their pale blue light glimmering in the darkness.
We reached the natural cave formation. She's in there.
I'll get on it then. Waste feeds the void, after all. Imi chuckled again. Kotak grinned and walked into the dark. The gravitic struts provided limited illumination, but Kotak was unfazed. Pit organs between his eyes and nostrils detected the infrared radiation of ambient heat, the ion channels packed with highly sensitive temperature receptors that formed a thermal image in Kotak's brain. He strode with the same unhurried confidence as before, flexing the fingers of his concussion gauntlets as he descended deeper and deeper. He soon left the kin-wrought tunnels, the familiar smell of faint burning substituted by the dank whiff of trapped water. His cochlear implants identified a distant dripping as he entered the yawning expanse of natural caves formed over millennia of erosion and gravitic pressures. There was no light to speak of. Kotak relied on thermal imaging alone. He identified a cavernous basin and strode towards its centre, whistling as he went. Reaching his destination, he determinedly planted his feet in position. He slowly pivoted on the spot to build up a 360-degree thermal image of his surroundings. Spear-tipped stalactites hung from the ceiling, reaching out to stalagmites jutting from the floor. Boulders were dotted about the cavern, the stubborn survivors of ancient erosion from water pockets that had long since drained elsewhere. Kotak whistled a little louder. He paid attention to the micro-nerves in the soles of his feet, feeling the minute vibration of sound waves passing through the stone. The louder he whistled, the greater the vibration, and, after a minute or so, the vibration crescendoed into a dangerous rumbling that shuddered through the solid rock. Kotak grinned. Falling silent, he tiptoed as best as he was able to a position a few meters away from where he had stood. The Thonian readied his fists and waited for his quarry. He didn't have to wait long. The tremors through the earth intensified. He no longer needed any micro-nerves to perceive them. Then the stone erupted upwards with violent force, and the Ambull barreled into view. Imi had been right. The beast was a big one. Stone powder rolled off the hulking bulk of her natural carapace. Vast pincer claws dragging her from her bore tunnel and into the approximation of open air. She stretched to full height, an insectoid monster with oversized arms. Rows of spikes followed the hunch of her shoulders and along the curved length of her spine. Her eyes were deep set into chitin ridges, her face ending with two jagged mandibles from which earth shuddered loose and cascaded over wide splayed feet. "Hi, beastie. Are you the Modir?" The Ambull screeched by way of reply, mandibles clacking. Without hesitation, she charged towards the Thonian. The Ambull aimed a backhanded claw towards Kotak. Instead of jumping back, Kotak instead punched at her careening pincer. Bestial brawn met the sheer force of technologically magnified mass, and lost. the Ambull staggered. The creature hissed, off balance, and Kotak capitalized, launching his other fist towards the Ambull's knee. She scuttled back in the nick of time, screeching and hissing all the while, and then dived into the hole from which she had emerged. Kotak tutted, attending once more to the micronerves in his feet. He slowly retreated until he felt a large boulder at his back. A stalactite hung over him, poised like a sword above his head. The Thonian evaluated its structural integrity. He marked the tremors of calcium dust escaping from subtle fissures in the cavern's roof. The earth began to shake. At the very last moment, Kotak dived to the side. The ground erupted once more as the Ambull made her violent return. She grasped for Kotak with a pincered claw, the Thonian feeling the whoosh of displaced air as she snipped and snapped for his arm. But the Ambull was a fraction too slow, and Kotak hit the hard ground intact. He rolled on his shoulder and back onto his feet. As he maneuvered, the stalactite trembled from its roof bed and fissured free. It plummeted down and struck the Ambull square, partially splintering as the central shard speared the beast through her back. The Ambull shrieked in pain and confusion. Her limbs splayed as she was slammed into the earth. Gooey, blue blood oozed forth. Before the Ambull could recover, Kotak was upon her. He punched the creature hard to the face, the beast screeching as a mandible cracked apart, and her chin fractured along brutal fault lines. Kotak went to punch her again, but she swiped at him first, taking his legs out from under him and catapulting him into the darkness. He smashed into a protruding stalagmite. All the air punched from his lungs as his hyperdense bones absorbed the shock of the impact. Kotak grunted. He picked himself back up. He spat a gob of spit on the ground. The Ambull was up, too. Her ruined mandible twitched in fits of animal pain. Blue ooze still drained from her back, leaving a droplet trail of thermal warmth behind her as she advanced on Kotak. Kotak shook his head like a canid, as if to shake loose his dizziness, and met the Ambull halfway. Though injured, the Ambull was still vast, and able to attack first. She grabbed for Kotak with a snapping claw, but this time Kotak ducked, coming up under her reach and within range of her fleshy underside. He landed a flurry of blows, tenderizing the monster's torso and forming angry welts of concussive injury. The Ambull screamed. She flailed at Kotak with a claw, but Kotak slammed a fist into the underside of her elbow before the pincer reached him. The blow snapped the creature's arm back with such force that the limb inverted. With a grotesque, splintering sound, a shoot of bone punched bloodily through leathery skin. The Ambull howled. Her arm flopped uselessly by her side. She scrambled back, but slipped on her own blood, and crashed into a shuddering stalagmite. Kotak pursued, swatting away a desperate claw swipe and returning a brutal uppercut to the creature's already fractured chin. The Ambull's neck juddered, the natural armor of her skull cracking against the chitin of her back. The damaged mandible disintegrated into splinters that lacerated flesh, her jawbone dissolving into a horrid soup of half-liquid bone. The stalagmite gave way, crumbling under the spasming weight of the mutilated creature. As she smashed into the ground, the stalactite shards in her back were driven deeper into her body, producing new contortions and heights of screeching noise. Kotak grimaced. He stepped on the Ambull's chest, ducking beneath the feeble grasping of her remaining arm. All right. Hush now. He took the creature's head in both hands. One fist grabbed her remaining mandible, while the other gripped the side of her face. Shh. Hush now. With a sharp twist, he snapped the Ambull's neck, and the cacophony was silenced. Grav chute technologies brimmed with light to arrest Kotak's fall to a stately descent. He left behind the corpse of the Ambull mother, her blood still oozing, and navigated the tunnel she had so recently dug towards the asteroid's core. It did not take him long to reach the tunnel's end. As it sloped out into an almost horizontal gradient, Kotak heard the hissing and clacking of the Ambull nest ahead. The Thonian paused at the tunnel's mouth. Thermal imaging created the blurred heat outlines of 4 juvenile Ambulls, none of the boar worms seeming more than a few months hatched, and wriggling about in desiccated beds of their own shed skin. But for their worming shape and the dry peel of their chitin, ever sloughing off as the beasts grew and grew, they were miniature copies of their mother. Razored mandibles clicked and clacked, hungry and impatient. Where they bumped shoulders, the boar worms hissed and half-heartedly lashed at each other with tiny claws, leaving scratches in chitin and helping along their reptilian shedding. Kotak grunted. He lowered himself down from the tunnel and onto the nursery floor. The boar worms chittered in agitation. One of them stretched out to full height, spitting bile from a slender, snaking tongue. Yeah, I understand. But it won't do. Luck has. Need keeps. Toil earns. Kotak advanced. The grisly matter was soon concluded. Covered in blue Vitae goo and folds of shed chitin, Kotak activated the comms function in his cochlear implant and waited for the call to connect. Sophisticated cogitator systems compensated for the tons of rock between him and the asteroid's surface. Even still, the voice that came through on the other side was scratchy and faint.
Hey, Bullbreaker. All done?
Yeah. How does Ambull's steak sound for tonight's natmal?
It sounds just fine. Any trouble?
No. She was a lively one, but nothing more than a few bruises.
Good.
Do you mind sending down Imi for the Modir? I'll have my hands full with the little ones.
Will do.
Good. I'll get started then. Waste feeds the void.
I'll warm up the stove. See you soon.
With a grunt and a thought, Kotak ended the call. Gripping 2 necks apiece in each gauntlet, he dragged the dead Ambulls behind him and began the labour of hauling their bodies to the asteroid's surface.
Thank you for listening to this video from the Archive Tower. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to the channel.